Hakadosh Boker Tov. We're just going to continue now with halachot of Sukkot. We have to come and we have to make the sukkah, and we are going to put the schach. The schach has to be done from something which is going to be gidulo min haaretz, which means it grows from the ground, and it has to be separated, it has to be detached, it cannot be connected. So you can't just come and take trees or let's say for example the leaves or branches and just extend them over your sukkah because they're attached to the tree. Plus, he says it's davar she'eno ra'ui lekabel tumah. So therefore, if it has to be something which is not fitting to accept tumah, so therefore you're not allowed to put for the schach, whether it's going to be any types of metals or iron, because again, en gidula min haaretz, and it's going to be mekabel tumah. The same halacha would apply that you're not allowed to put a schach or rot, skins of baalei chayim, because even though you didn't come and you didn't process them, still, which they're not going to be fitting for mekabel tumah, they're not called gidule karka, which means that they're not called that they grew from the ground. Animals, they actually are born, so therefore it's not that they're grown from the ground. The same halacha would apply to anything which is going to be attached to the ground. So you can't just take the branches of the trees, as we already mentioned before. When we're talking about now different parts of the sukkah in itself. So for example, when we're talking about the walls of the sukkah, we know that the sukkah has to be done with 3 different walls, and it has to be something which is haomed bifnei haruach. What does it mean haomed bifnei haruach? It has to withstand a common wind. So now obviously that's going to exclude many times that they come and they put whether it's going to be curtains or other things, that is going to be a big problem. He says, why is it going to be a big problem? Even if you're going to have one of the walls going to be a curtain. The reason why is because if it's going to come and start moving, right, with a common wind, so therefore what happens is it's not considered a wall. And if it's not considered a wall, it would be a bracha levatala. So therefore that's why, I don't know if you realize, even when you buy these type of sukkot, that they have, they have like a curtain type of a thing that goes around the curtain. They have the walls, and then they have the curtain right beside it. Now the walls in itself are not big enough. They always sell you the straps, which the straps are made within 3 tvachim each one. There's like a Velcro type of straps that you come, and when you're putting them around, it tightens it in order that it shouldn't move the walls. Another way of getting out of that problem is, I've seen many people that they will have the structure, which means they're going to have the metal poles, and then what they do is they buy from, for example, Home Depot, whether it's plastic or wood, the zigzags. I don't know how you call them in English. It's like a type of a mechitza. It's like a type of a fence. What? No, but it's not mesh. It's not mesh. It's made out of wood or plastic. It's not mesh. But it's basically lattice. Thank you. That lattice, that's the word. Right? It's a lattice. They have them out of plastic as well. Plastic or wood, by putting that on the walls, so therefore even though the curtain might be moving, but the curtain is not your wall. The wall is the lattice. That in itself is the wall with the metal poles. But the metal poles are not enough. Because the metal poles you just have there, but that's it. It's just around. So that's going to be an important halakha as well. You could use as a door, you could use it as a wall. Meaning, even though you have the 2 sides wall, and the 3rd side is going to be a door, let's say a big door, you could use that as a wall. Now, even though it's opening and closing, and you're allowed to open it up and close it without any problem, that is still going to be considered a wall. Minimum height of the difanot, we were going to talk about the minimum height, is going to be 10 which is 80 centimeters. Remember that there's going to be a very important concept of always levud. Levud is going to be when it's going to be 24 centimeters, which is 3 tvachim, which many times within 3 tvachim it's considered connected. So whether it's going to be many times that it could be that you might have a space, if it's going to be less than 3 tvachim, there will be connections. Obviously, if you have any doubts, right, you could always ask just to make sure that it's going to be there. The last halakha we'll mention is going to be the concept of the noyeh sukkah. What is the noyeh sukkah? We have a mitzvah to beautify the sukkah, right? Where do we learn that from? Zeli v'anveu, hitna'el lefanav b'mitzvot, which means that we want to come, we want to beautify the mitzvah, beautify the sukkah by coming and putting beautiful adornments. However, though, when you're going to come and you're going to hang them up, you have to be very careful that you do it within 4 tvachim, which means within 32 centimeters from the schach has to be your adornments. Now why? Because if it's going to be lower down, and let's say you're sitting under one of them, it could be posel, that place where you're sitting. So therefore you have to be very, very careful that wherever the adornments are going to be, make sure that they're going to be above 32 centimeters, meaning you'll have to measure and make sure, but if it's going to be below, meaning within the 32 centimeters from the schach, it's going to be batel. But if you're going to have it much lower down, so therefore what's going to happen is that if you're sitting underneath it, you're actually not sitting in the sukkah, you're sitting underneath an adornment. So therefore that's also very, very important just to remember. So whenever you're putting these adornments, make sure it's within the 32 centimeters from the schach.